Hey guys, I'm going to do a quick video on a little word I used to despise. A word I said was making a virtue out of nothing. That word is faith. Do you have faith? Do I have faith? Does our faith show up in our daily walk through life? Thinking back right now, I went to a place, I was in this big warehouse, and I saw this guy, and I noticed for a couple weeks, I noticed on the inside of his arm, the inside of his biceps here, one side said family, the other side said faith, and I could tell just because of the I, and TH, and I could tell what it probably said one day. And one day he was having a day that was down, and the number 111 in 11 and stuff like that would stick out to him. And I went through a phase like that where maybe things were starting to click. I don't follow them as signs, but nonetheless, these 11s stuck out to him. And he told me the story, and I said he was standing next to an Indian motorcycle, the Indian manufacturer, and on the side of the primary case of the Indian motorcycle, there's a big number 111 because it's a 111 cubic inch motor. And I said, do you have faith? And he kind of looked at me and he said, I did. And I said, well, on the inside of your arm, it says faith, right? And he said, yeah. I said, do you have any? He said, well, I don't know, man. It's been a long time. I did. And I started to share with him. He said, man, it's been a hot minute since I heard somebody talking about some Bible stuff. And then I shared with him a little more about me. And I said, well, little would you know that less than 3 years ago I was an atheist. Also used to dabble in some occult stuff. I said, but in less than 3 years, I had a real tangible experience with God, and it changed, and I no longer hated that word. In fact, I've grown to understand that word more. I've grown to walk in that word more, and I notice that in my own life, that by faith, after time or after a process or whatever it is, because it's not always an immediate thing, but by faith, I get to experience God. And as I experience God more and more, whether it's in small areas of my life or in larger, bigger, more troubling times, the more I experience Him, the more I learn to trust Him. The more I learn to trust Him, the more I learn to love Him, because He's always good. When I started this whole journey, there was a time I felt called to go to the Rocky Mountains, and I didn't know where. Well, I guess I did. I kind of knew where, but my wife and I, we sat down, we picked a town, and it seemed comparable to where we were at the time as far as job market and housing and different things like that. So we packed up, literally no house, no real money other than enough money to get out there. No house, no job, no friends, no family, no nothing, just faith. And some of our own, I didn't grow up in the church, but she did, but some of our own Christian friends, some of our own even Christian family, maybe they grew up on the legalistic side or have just seem more confining at times. I'm not here to knock them or judge them, but they said, you can't just do this. You can't just pick up and go across the country and think it's going to work. And I said, wait, but I'm a new believer. Someone had told me, you have a childlike faith. Well, now I've seen the Bible, it says to come like a child. I have no real understanding or no preconceived notions about how this works. So now that I've come into this understanding about, I had an encounter with Jesus, that's the only thing that changed my mind. One of those, blessed are those who have seen, even more are those who have not. I've saw. And for everyone out there who's believing and has not seen, man, God bless you, because that's, I couldn't get past science, logic, and reason. Maybe I was too smart for my own good. But anyways, back to this word faith. They said, you can't just do this. And I said, wait, you're the same people that have been telling me I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I want to see. So we went, and nothing really stuck out. So we drove 5 more hours over the Rocky Mountains to the western slope. And we got there, we met someone, and we stayed a couple more days, and we drove back over to the front range, and where our hotel and our moving truck was still parked. And I prayed that night, and then I kind of got prompted to go to a book of Deuteronomy. I'd never read it, but I read about the 12 spies sent to the Promised Land, and 10 of them went back and were too afraid. They were cursed. They went back on the other side of the river. But Caleb and Joshua, they had faith, and they went, and they knew that they had faith that God would fight their battles, and they did. And they inhabited the land afterwards. We woke up in the morning, my wife said, what are we going to do? Did you get anything last night? And I told her, I said, I read this story, and I said, we chose this place, but this other place was pointed out to us, and yes, it's going to be more difficult because it's smaller and it's more expensive. It's a touristy type of town. But we went and it worked. And not only that, God showed up with He showed up with a gift. Someone blessed us financially. Not an astronomical number, but a very significant number that I just could not. And I'm trying to tell them, you don't understand. I can't pay this back. You don't get this. You don't get why we came out here, because I feel like, God told me. And they said, yeah, well, we felt like that, and we prayed about it, and here's the money. And let's just say the first couple months of rent was taken care of, and in a very expensive town. It was a huge sort of thing, and it's not the money, it's just how He always comes through with these weird things. So when I go back to the guy in the warehouse and he says, I did have faith, and I said, he talks about the number 111, and I said, do you know what Hebrews 1:11 says, right? And he said, no, I don't. Now I'll read it from 4 different versions here. This is the King James Version. 1:11 was funny to me because Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. The substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now I'm going to slide over here to the New King James Version. Where are we at? Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Pretty much the same thing. And we're going to hop over here to one of my favorites, especially if you're a new believer, is the NLT, the New Living Translation Bible. Chapter 11, great examples of faith. Verse 1, faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. Pretty much the same thing. And we're going to hop over here to one of my wife's favorite version. This is the Amplified Version. Hebrews, again, chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the assurance, the confirmation, the title deed of the things we hope for, being the proof of things we do not see, and the conviction of their reality, faith perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. Something perceived. It's not something you see visually or necessarily it's perceived. I know a lot of times for me I get like an impression that I can't escape. I can try to run from it all day, but I can't escape. So just in those 4 versions. And the way I see this, you have to, you may move around. I like to get different versions and read what they say, or translations if you want to call it, and see what they say and see how they're worded. And to me, it's not a difference in this thing's been translated so many times. If I told you today, if you asked me to lunch and I said I can't go to lunch today, I don't have the money, or I said, hey, I ain't got the funds, or I said, I'd really like to go, but I can't justify doing that with the way my finances are. Or, I really don't want to go to lunch. I need to save money. I've told you the same thing in 4 different ways. Which one of those you hear or interpret better, or makes you feel better, or whatever it is, that's up to you. And I think the Bible's the same way. I say the same thing about a church. I was a big-time alcoholic for a long time, so sometimes I'll even equate church to, it's like a bar. You go in, and within a couple visits, if not right away, you know if it's your place or not. Don't assume all churches are the same, because they are not, Jack, I'll tell you that. I didn't grow up in a church, but since I've started to go, and I've bounced around it a lot, there are places you don't hear the Bible, you don't talk about repentance or growing spiritually or any of these things, but it's got to be. I'm not saying we're always going to like it. There's a lot of things that are pointed out through the scriptures that make us uncomfortable, but those are chances to grow. But it is a personal thing. The translation you read, the church you go to, it is a personal thing. I know it should be Bible-based, and I feel you should sense the presence of God on that church. It's not about numbers. It's not about how good the coffee is. None of that stuff. But back to the subject of faith. Do you have any? This is a real thing that you can step in. Faith is an invitation. You can literally, it's like someone saying, you know what you can do, but then there's this other voice that's telling you can do this. They don't give you all the details. If you got all the details, you'd run off and try to be self-sufficient and do it yourself. So it's by faith, and when you step into that invitation, you get to experience. Most people don't even step into that, or once they have stepped into it, if it doesn't happen in the time frame they want, it seems that we step away. And it's such a curious thing to me. You know, we've all of us certainly have had moments in our life where we didn't understand. Uh, we went towards something that we didn't quite grasp or know, but it worked out, and we gained something or learned something or whatever it is. I'm just going to ask you to think on that today. Faith, it's not making a virtue out of nothing. It's an invitation. In fact, I believe it's an action word. The other day I was reading, in fact, and it flashed in my head real quick. And Faith, it was forced action and total humility. And fear is the other side of that road. Um, what do they say that is? False evidence appearing real. Fear is paralyzing. We don't do anything. We stay right where we are. We stay comfortable. Faith, it's an action word. It's a forced action in total humility. And it is action because you have to do something for it. You have to step into that invitation. And you have to be humble because we don't know what will happen, but we trust. I want to encourage you today to have faith. I love you guys. Be blessed.